Hello and welcome to day two, Nervous System Reboot for our interactive expert-led Q&A. I'm joined today by Kim and Defo. Kim, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Please take your time to settle into this space. We'll be here together for about the next hour. So get whatever you need to be comfortable, your water, your cup of tea to settle in. You can feel welcome to turn your camera on. If you feel more grounded and present with your camera off, please choose what works for you. I'll give you a little overview of this session and then I'll turn it over to our expert, Kim and Defo. So today we will have a presentation and experiential session with Kim. And then afterwards, we'll open the space for group discussion and finally a Q&A portion. If you have any questions at all, you can please use the chat. You can use the raise hand feature under the react button with the heart symbol, and we'll acknowledge you and call on you from there. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about our faculty expert today in case you are not yet familiar with her amazing work. Kim Indefo, MSN, CNMRN, is the founder and director of Lumos Transforms and the creator of the Resilience Toolkit, a model built to foster embodied self-awareness, stabilize people from the impacts of personal and collective trauma, and nurture adaptive capacity in a socially just, ecologically attuned framework. She began her career in community health education in the late 1980s, working with distressed populations such as youth in foster care and people who use injection drugs. As a licensed nurse midwife and registered nurse with a master's in nursing from Frontier Nursing University, Indefo has integrated postgraduate training in modalities like internal family systems, tension trauma release exercises, and emotional transformation therapy. Through Lumos Transforms, she leads programs such as the Resilience Toolkit certification, Embodied Activism, and Tender Love Doula e-Tiro communities. And she has partnered with institutions like the Los Angeles County Health Department and global organizations to embed embodied trauma-informed systems change. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. I didn't realize I was getting a whole bio, so it's a
Like,
long
yes.
it's a long one. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm really happy to be here today to offer something perhaps a little different than many folks have experienced before. Just to name a little bit of the structure of the hour. Um, I'm going to provide a little bit of context about what we're going to be doing. Then we're going to do it. Then we're going to have an option for some breakout groups or reflective individual reflection, and then some Q&A. And what we are doing is activating a mammalian reflex that resets the nervous system. Again, a mammalian nervous system reflex that resets the nervous system from high stress and trauma, so this is not about processing. This is not about narratives. This is about regulation, about resourcing, and about stabilization. And I really want to emphasize that whatever we are doing today, that your safety and your choice is centered, and we will return to that over and over again. Um, and while it is an experiential session, I just want to highlight that observing is a valid form of participation. Sometimes we want to participate in the chat really actively. We want to ask questions. We want to do the thing. And sometimes we want to hang back and observe. And we are ourselves learning and participating in that way. And I want to honor and welcome all forms of participation. Um, okay, so what is this reflex? What is this reflex? I want to start by saying that our survival states, the survival states that we see in stress, the survival states that we see particularly in trauma, are not pathology. There's nothing wrong with us, that these are adaptive responses of a mammal nervous system, whether we fight, whether we flee, whether we freeze, whether we collapse, whether we appease. All of these responses are life-giving because they're about survival, right? Um, so I want to be just really clear because sometimes there is a tendency to pathologize dissociation, freeze, and shut down as somehow wrong. And I just really want to underline that they are adaptive. All of these are adaptive as long as they match the situation. And this is key. Um, the problems come in is when we are stuck in one of these states when it no longer matches the situation. The situation is long past, and we are stuck in a freeze shutdown. We are stuck in a collapse or a appease. This is a problem. It's also a problem if we become triggered by a reminder of a past trauma that is not happening now. There was just a reminder of it, and it teleports us back into one of those responses. And again, it's not that the response is wrong or bad, it's the timing. It matched the situation, it just doesn't match now. And so, with that in mind, we are bringing in this practice to, again, not pathologize any of our responses, but to help us come into coherence with the current moment, to our current circumstances, our current relationships, our current context. And so, what's important to know is that the body of all mammals has a reflex of involuntary micro movements or vibration. Sometimes it can be a larger movement, and this small spontaneous vibration or even a tremor, so it's really a vibration, it signals to our bodies the completion of a stress response, the completion of a trauma response. Um, and so it's important to understand a little bit about this because when most people hear this, they say, really? Because we have such negative connotations or associations with the idea of involuntary movement or a vibration or a tremor. Um, and so I want to provide a little bit about the physiology of it, distinguish it from other movements in the body, and then talk about how we're going to engage it. And then we're actually going to give a try of it. So this vibration originates in the brain and the spinal cord. It essentially originates and it activates when we feel relatively safe. Not 100% safe because then we wouldn't need it. We wouldn't be in an activated response. It's only when we have to be safe enough. If we are truly in life-threatening danger and in a shutdown, the body will hold very still in that freeze. It will not initiate this vibration because we're still in the midst of whatever the situation is, right? It's when that's over and we have relative safety and we're able to perceive it's safe enough, then this will activate centrally and the vibration will help us come down the rest of the way. It will help us reset, right? So this is a reset regulation. And when it shows up, it can show up in a variety of ways. Sometimes, as I said, it's a very fine vibration, a humming, a buzzing, a tingling. Some people feel it in that way. Sometimes it is larger. It has a tendency to move around the body because remember, it comes from the brain. So it will find areas of highest tension in your body and reset that tension. Um, and this is very different from, let's say you're in at the gym or in a yoga class and you're holding a posture for a long period of time, or you're doing an exercise that's very strenuous, your muscles will also begin to vibrate. And some people say, isn't it the same? And I really want to point out that that's different because in those things, we are exerting. Here, this is minimal exertion. When we're doing exercise, the reason why a muscle begins to vibrate is because we're exerting so much. The vibration is to prevent damage to the muscle and tendons. And that one originates at the site of the stress in the muscle. It doesn't originate in the brain. And that's why when we do exercise, the vibration stays local to the muscles that we're working and it doesn't spread through the body. So I just want to distinguish both of these vibrations are really life-giving, one protecting our muscles and our tendons, and this one that we're going to do today, this mammalian reflex that I call the therapeutic vibration or therapeutic tremor, helps us reset our nervous systems. And some people say, well, like when you're cold and you tremble, that's another kind of trembling that happens that's life-giving. And that helps us if we're very, very cold. It helps prevent hypothermia. So, um, because the thing is, in dominant culture, we're told that vibration or tremors are bad or wrong, and they're ones that are scary, like a seizure, right? Having Parkinson's, right? These kinds of tremors are indicative of some kind of pathology. And I want to distinguish that from what we are doing here, which is not a pathology. It is life-giving and it's in all of us. It's a reflex. So I'm really not teaching you anything. I'm helping you remember what it is that you already have inside of you. I'm helping you remember what it is you already have inside of you. And so when we do this practice, it is, remember, we're orienting towards settling, we're orienting towards choice. More isn't better. In this context, we are not trying to release something from our bodies. We're not trying to do emotional discharge. We are doing short accessing of this reflex to reset, to regulate, to bring in greater calm, greater safety, right, into the nervous system. And that's what we are tuning into today. And as I guide you through, you're going to hear me prompting you about discerning, about recognizing, when is this working for you? How do you know it's working for you? And knowing when to stop, right? And so I'm going to be cueing you along the way to pay attention to your own signals of activation, your own signals that things might be settling, and cueing you when to stop. Because there's something very interesting is that I want to underline here and feels a little bit counterintuitive. The higher our stress or trauma activation, the shorter the practice. This is actually a rule of thumb. And most people really, they knit their brows and they look and they say, what? The higher the stress or trauma activation, the shorter the practice. So you may be having a big question mark over your head to say, why is this the case? The case is when we are in very high activation, we go numb, we shut down, and we disconnect. So whatever we were feeling, fear, grief, whatever it was that was overwhelming us, we become numb to it. But it doesn't mean it's gone. We're numb to it because it was overwhelming us. And as we start to come out of that freeze, as we start to settle into greater safety, suddenly there's space to feel. And when we feel, suddenly we're like, whoa, there's a lot to be felt. This is a lot, right? And so as that comes in, that can really feel like too much too fast. And too much too fast is actually a definition of trauma. Too much too fast, right? So I really can't underline this enough for you. It's not just what we're going to be doing here today, but it's in general. If we have very high activation, we want to do small practices that help us come out of a freeze state, but don't drop us into so much safety that we feel everything all at once and become overwhelmed and freeze right back up again. So higher activation, especially when we're in shutdown, we do short practices and that's it. Just a little bit so we can feel a little bit and then metabolize that. If you're starting out in more a moderate activation, then you can do a longer practice because there's you're dropping into a settled place without so much charge coming behind it. So I hope that's making sense, because I see a lot of people who use all different kinds of nerve. I don't think we talk about enough because I know when I talk about it when I'm teaching, so many people are like, I wish I would have known that. That's why this has been so hard, right? Okay. Um, so I just want to pause and see if there are any questions before we head into practice. Feel free to pop in the chat if you have any questions at all, and I will um, uh, be sure to answer them before we do the practice. And I want to apologize if anyone had trouble with the link. I know that there was some trouble with the link, and some folks are just being able to enter now. Um, it is being resolved. Okay, folks. So if there's no questions, let's start. Um, Pam is adding in the chat, nice to encounter someone who understands the term emotional discharge and also uses it. Yeah, I mean, I think I appreciate your comment, Pam, and when we're suffering and there's a lot of charge in us and we want relief, we just want it out of our bodies. I just want the fear out. I want the sadness out. I just want relief. And I really understand that. And I have a lot of empathy because I have been there. The fact is there's no getting it out. There is learning to meet it, right? There's learning to meet it. And we have to build our capacity to be able to meet those emotions in their intensity. And we can't do it all at once. And so this is really about stabilizing and resourcing ourselves and moving gently with self-compassion so that we don't re-traumatize ourselves in the regulation and in the healing. Okay, I think folks are just minding getting their way in. They're really, that link issue was tough, y'all. So thank you for sticking with it. I'm about to take you into um, a I see a question about having an epidural steroid injection. As I guide you through these movements, please let your own sense of your body and your body's capacity be the guide about what you can or can't do. If anything is more uncomfortable than your baseline in any way, mentally, emotionally, or physically, please stop. That is not the idea of regulation, to feel worse, okay? So please, I'm going to remind you again that your comfort is a guide. It is the language of your body telling you where to go and where to pause. Um, okay. Um, so let's just start by inviting you to turn your attention inwards and notice where you are starting. Where are you starting? How much activation is there in your system? How much activation is there in your system? Noticing how much tension you're carrying, how pressured things feel. Is there a sense of disconnection, numbness? That's a sign of very high activation when we're so overwhelmed that we disconnect. And so you're both looking for the type of intensity that you're carrying and the degree of intensity that you're carrying. Is it more active, pressurized, mobilized? Is it more shut down, numb, disconnected? And how strong? All right, so just taking a mental note of what is there. And I'm going to invite you into some really gentle movements that we use to help us connect to our bodies, bring in greater rhythmicity, greater safety, And we do this before we activate the vibration, the therapeutic vibration. So the first movement is just to begin to engage your wrists. You can do this with your feet or your hands. And you're just moving there. Think how many joints you have in your fingers and your wrists and your hands. And you're moving them around really gently and just feeling those joints mobilize. Feeling the joints mobilize. Again, some people like to use their wrists. If anything is more uncomfortable in your baseline, can you stop and honor your body's message? And as you're doing that, just noticing, like I just noticed I took a deeper breath. Y'all, we have sensors in all of our joints. And when those sensors are activated through movement, they send a message to our brain telling us where we are in space, where our body is in space, and our brains like that. Okay, let's try another movement. This time taking one hand, putting it on one shoulder, and sweeping that hand down towards the wrist. Hand on the opposite shoulder, sweeping down the arm towards the wrist. Okay, and you can continue alternating, and you can do this quickly or slowly. You can do it with a gentle touch. Some people prefer a firm touch or a squeeze on the way down. And as you're doing this movement, right, as you're doing this movement, noticing what's happening in your body. Is there more space and relaxation? Does your breath deepen? Is there greater awareness and connection with your body? If you notice discomfort, can you stop? Please stop. Okay, so that's the second movement. Um, and so this is as you're feeling, right? As you start to do this, if you started in a more numb or shut down way, as you do this practice, you might feel more of your body and you might feel more emotion and say, "Whew, that's too much." One, immediately stopping the practice, right? And the second, and I'm responding to a question in the chat. One thing that I find helps if you get hit by a burst of overwhelm, if your body can do it, is to do like some jumping jacks really quickly, running in place like a sprint, but really fast in place. Not long, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. And this burst of activity often sort of pops the adrenaline bubble, the emotion, and it's like you're able to find like, oh, okay. If that's not available to you, I wasn't planning on teaching this, but y'all are, let me grab this. I keep this by the bedside, so right here by my bed desk. A towel, a tea towel, a hand towel, rolled up. This is a little trick, y'all. And I'm taking it rolled up in my hands. Both of my hands are holding it. And I'm imagining that this is soaking wet. And I'm going to slowly squeeze every last drop of water out by twisting it. Slow, slow, slow. Or reversing the direction. Slow, slow, slow. Using this, if you, again, come out of a freeze state, a shutdown state, into a big pot of emotion, using these quick movements or this towel twisting, most people find that like that is huge relief. Okay, so I just want to pop that in there for you. Okay, and again, if you're starting in a more stressed state, not a trauma state, more of a pressure state, you might be noticing that there's more spaciousness, more relaxation. Okay. I would like to do another warm-up movement. This one you can do standing or seated. I'm going to actually demonstrate it standing. I'd invite you to watch me first so that you can see the movements, and then I will guide you through with my voice. Okay? So I'm gonna move. I have long COVID, so I work from bed, y'all. Um, it's a great desk. All right, so I'm gonna show you this movement. Standing, I'm standing with my legs wide like a pyramid. And I'm gonna bend my knees just a little bit, and I'm gonna tighten my bum under. And look, we have a little cat visitor right there. All right, y'all. From this position, I'm going to twist my hips, twisting one hip forward, then the other hip forward. Then I let my arms go in a nice loose position. This should be comfortable and easeful as possible. Again, I'm feeling it's an opening of the hips and it actually is stretching the psoas. If you are seated, you can just move your upper body without the hips. So now I'm going to invite you to join me. Okay, I'm going to invite you to join me. Standing with your legs like wider than hip distance apart, so it's like a pyramid. Or if you're seated, you're just going to be twisting the upper body. If you're standing, tucking your bum under and pushing the hips forward with a twist. Okay. We are stretching the psoas muscle, which is a big fight-flight muscle, when we do this. And I felt an opening in my chest. I'm curious if folks are feeling any changes in themselves, right? There's no exact number to do these. We're more about inviting rhythmicity into the body. We're inviting greater safety into the body through not pushing ourselves into discomfort. Honoring when our body says, I don't like this, right? I'm going to stop. And Aya's saying, lovely, yes, more spaciousness in the chat. Okay, now I'm going to show how to activate this therapeutic vibration or therapeutic tremor. I'm inviting you to please watch me first so that I can take any questions and then I will guide you through with my voice. You do not have to remember this every single step, okay? And I'm seeing also in the chat more freedom in my lower body. So I want to first show you my position. Like I said, I have a bed desk, right? So I'm here in bed, propped up, leaning back against these pillows. And so for you, that might be on a couch. It might be sitting on the floor with your back against the wall, in some way relaxed, right? And so the position here, oh, look, we have a cat friend. The position that I'm in is the soles of my feet are together and my knees are open in a diamond position and my upper body is relaxed. Do you see that? Very, very relaxed. And okay, belly is relaxed again. And if there's any discomfort in the legs, you can put pillows on the outside of your knees to support so it's just comfortable. Again, you don't have to remember, please just watch. From this position, it's important to know how to turn this off because remember I said if you feel uncomfortable in any way, you're going to stop. Okay. And we stop by lengthening the legs. That's all. That's what turns it off, turns off the vibration. Some people do like to get up and walk around, but for most people, this turns it off. Okay, so how do I start it? I'm just going to come in the starting position in the diamond. I'm squeezing my bum muscles. They're squeezed in place. Okay. And when I start to feel a little fatigue in my glutes, I release that squeeze, very relaxed. Then I close my knees a little at a time, 2 inches, hold. When I feel a little fatigue, I close 2 inches more. When I feel a little fatigue, we're not trying to build muscle, this is not the gym, I close more. And so we're going to continue closing until you feel a vibration somewhere in your body. And when you feel that vibration, wherever it starts, because remember, it comes from the brain, wherever it starts, watching my feet, I turn them so that they're flat and the knees are open, and I let the vibration move through the body. Remembering to stop, I lengthen the legs. The vibration may show up as a hum, a vibration, or a tingle, a visible vibration or a tingle. There's many different ways it can show up. Bigger isn't better. And the reasons to stop, you feel uncomfortable, you feel more relaxed, or you feel we reach the time limit. Remember, the higher the activation, the shorter you practice. 30 seconds, 60 seconds is plenty if you have high activation, 1 to 2 minutes max for medium activation. All right? So if you'd like to give it a try, my invitation is to find a comfortable position. You basically want to have your bum on the same level as your feet. So if you're sitting in a chair, pull up another chair to put your feet on. In the bed, couch, floor, basically you are in that relaxed, you're like semi-reclined, kind of sitting back, relaxed. Your legs are out in front of you with the soles touching and the knees open in a diamond position, right? And you're seeking as much ease as possible, as much comfort as possible. Checking, do you have enough room for the stopping position to straighten out your legs? Do you have enough room? All right, so let's try to activate this. Soles of the feet touching, knees open in a diamond position, and an invitation to squeeze your glutes in place. Just give them a good squeeze. And you're going to hold that squeeze until you feel a little fatigue. Again, not trying to build muscle. We're not at the gym. This is not Pilates. Just a squeeze until you feel a little fatigue, and then you release that squeeze in the bum. The glute muscles just relax. From that relaxed place, okay? So if you're not done squeezing, let the squeeze go and let it relax. You're only going to squeeze once. You're going to take your knees and close them just 2 inches and hold. Really tuning into your body, accompanying yourself, noticing what's changing, what's shifting inside. And then when you feel a little fatigue there, you close another 2 inches. You're going to follow your own rhythm. When you feel fatigue in your inner thighs, you close just a little bit. Everybody moving at their own rhythm and listening to your body. This is deeply regulating when we listen to our bodies and honor what our body is asking for, right? Oh, that's fatigue. Let me relieve that fatigue. You bite, at some point, you begin to notice some kind of vibration. It could be a humming, buzzing, tingling, streaming, or you might visibly even see it. It might be on one side or another. When you begin to notice that, and you're like, is that it? Give it a sec. Really? Is that it? And if you feel, yeah, there's some movement happening internally or visibly, you take the soles of the feet and you plant them flat with the knees still wider open, noticing what happens as you do that. Sometimes the vibration changes in expression. Sometimes we find ourselves thinking, am I making this happen? Is this real? Am I doing it right? These are all very normal as we're learning about this reflex in our body. If at any point you feel more uncomfortable than your baseline, please stop. But if you're doing okay, notice, how do you know? How do you know that you're okay, that things might be settling? Again, just being with yourself, being curious, being compassionate. Remember, if you have a lot of shutdown, a lot of freeze, 30 to 60 seconds is plenty of this. Otherwise, we'll do about a minute. We'll give it another few seconds and then we'll come to a close. If you're not already stopped, an invitation to lengthen your legs and bring it to a stop and notice what happens when you lengthen your legs. What shifts in your body? Does your breath deepen? Can you feel more aliveness? Is there more emotion? If anything feels overwhelming, remember you can jumping jacks or towel twist. Okay. I know we're a small group because there was so much difficulty with the link. I know so many people wanted to get in and couldn't. I'm so glad that we're recording and people can come back to this. I was planning on doing some breakout groups, but rather than doing breakout groups, I think I'd like us to just have a moment of reflection and then I can take questions. Yeah? Yeah, I know some of you missed the beginning where I provided the context and explanation of what this is. And I'm happy to do that again. But let me go ahead and put just a few reflection questions in the chat. And I already see that Anna has a question that I'd like to answer. But I'd like to give you just a minute of reflecting with these questions. Just a minute. Pick one. What did your nervous system learn from this experience? Two, what helped you feel more settled or more oriented to safety? Or three, what signals told you it was time to continue, pause, or stop? Or four, what surprised you about your body's response or lack of response? Okay, so we're just going to do about a minute. Paul, I see your comment. I'll address that. And I also want to more generously answer Jennifer's question and comment. But let's just give a minute to be with this in reflection, and then I will take your questions and do some explaining, and we'll do some learning together. So just about a minute. And maybe you want to draw that or just think about it or journal. Just a minute with one of those questions. Mm. And I see some people are already putting their reflections in the chat, which is wonderful. And we'll be able to take some questions by voice too, and comments by voice as well. Okay. Welcome to those that are just joining. Folks are in a small reflection, and then we're about to do some Q&A and sharing. So still lots to learn. Okay. All right. Um, I want several people here said, I didn't notice anything. There was no tremor in my body. Did not work for me, no vibration. I did not notice anything. Lots of thoughts and wondered what to expect. The only reason the vibration won't turn on is that we don't feel safe enough. It's not a technique thing, because the vibration, if any of you have ever been in an accident, if you've ever been in an argument, you've had an operation or surgery, your body will vibrate naturally afterwards, like, whew, that was a lot. And we shake and we tremble. And most people have experienced this or childbirth sometimes, a tough childbirth will experience this afterwards, will vibrate. You didn't have to do any special exercises, nothing, right? Your body just was like, that thing was hard, that thing was scary, that thing is over, and I'm shaking. That is literally our body doing this reflex of reset. That is literally what is happening. But culturally, in the dominant culture, we are told that that is bad or wrong or we are weak. And so we are trained from very small and over generations to suppress that something is wrong with us, that we need to keep it under wraps. We need to not show that. And so it takes time culturally to unlearn that training and allow ourselves to be what is naturally within our body. The warm-up movements we did are really helping to bring in greater safety and rhythmicity so that we can access this vibration. If you were, for example, rushing around this today, trying to find the link, trying to get the link to work, really stressed, you came in, you're like in the middle of things are being talked about, you're confused and unfamiliar. Those are a lot of unsafe signals to your body. It is no surprise that you couldn't immediately drop in, right? It takes time for us to build safety in a container, to feel safe enough in whatever environment we are, to be able to access something that's new. But I want to say, um, it's like sneezing. This is a reflex, no different than sneezing. Imagine if you lived in a culture that said that sneezing was bad or wrong, right? And suddenly you hear a research study, sneezing is really good for you. We actually found out it clears out the nose. So you went to a sneezing class. But your whole life you've been told, don't let that happen. And then the instructor's doing this, achoo, achoo, big sneezes. And you're like, that's so weird. We don't do that, right? But as I'm saying this, this is ridiculous because most of us are like sneezing, no big deal. But if you had never seen a sneeze, that's a really strange movement, convulsive, jerking, loud noise. It's all about what's culturally acceptable to us. So for a lot of us, there's a lot of unlearning to remember that your body, my message for you, if you take nothing else, is your body has a reflex that it shares with all other mammals that knows how to reset stress and trauma. We are just so disconnected from it that we need to learn how to reconnect with it and how to work with it because it's a very powerful reflex. You only need a little bit. Okay, so Rose is adding, I think I'd need to be alone in silence. I often have difficulty with guided meditations as well. So you know what helps promote safety for you? It's the conditions that are going to allow you to access it better. Excellent. Melody, I felt some vibrations and small movements in my legs, now feeling a bit of emotion in the chest or upper body. So Melody, to explain or deconstruct what just happened for you, many of us are carrying so much emotion that it overwhelms us and we have to get on with our lives and we're numb to it. When we start to create more safety through a practice like this, it creates space to feel those feelings. And so that's what just happened was a little bit of freeze thawed for you and you came into contact with emotion. The question is, what do you do now? If the emotion is small and enough that you can tolerate it, it gives you place to integrate that emotion and be with it. If it feels too big, this is one, an indication you did too much. You need to do less next time. And right now, if it feels too much, you need to do something to be able to be with it or pop sort of that adrenaline bubble, I like to call it, by doing some vigorous movement. Quick jumping jacks. I showed this earlier, but I know many people have just logged on now, is taking a towel, a small hand towel or tea towel, in your hands, pretending it's wet, and slowly twisting out every drop of water. This often helps us when we are having an overwhelming experience. And it just gives us like, okay, it's back in my window of capacity. I can be with this. So I hope that's helpful, Melody. But that means it worked for you. Okay. That means it worked for you. Um, what else do we have here? Jennifer said, I noticed that I had more vibration when we did the stand-up exercise. Now that my legs are out in front of me, since doing the knee exercise, I can feel more energy flowing to my feet. Feels subtle and kind. So that's another expression. It's not always a visible vibration. Sometimes it's more of a flowing feeling, right? So it's teaching us how to also appreciate and be with some of the more subtle experiences in our body. Um, Sonia is asking, and this is a great question. After I had a bicycle accident where I sustained a fracture while lying on the road waiting for the emergency medical system to come, my whole body was shivering like I was freezing, but I was not cold. Is this the same? Sonia, this is exactly it. And I just want to really honor, I so appreciate you sharing this story. I'm sorry this happened to you, and I hope you've been healing well. This is the beauty of our nervous systems. We are reaching for all kinds of fancy tools and tricks and tips and doing trainings and doing all these things, when in reality, the reflex existed in you and exists in all of us like all mammals. And your body was taking care of you by that shivering to come out of the shock of that traumatic fall, that accident, and settle. And if we can allow our bodies to do that, it completes the incident and it doesn't store as a trauma. But so many times we're told, block it, stop it, we're medicated for it. I'm a healthcare provider. I know I've worked in many an operating theater or surgical suite, whatever you want to call it, what country you're in. We give medication to stop that vibration after surgery, when in fact people, it's settling for them. So Sonia, what a brilliant example of how your body is doing this. Um, so Aya is sharing that you had, with the lips trembling, your forehead softened and smoothed, quiver in the belly, curious smiling, heart met the quiver with a breath that held and soothed and acknowledged. Hmm. I'm so, and you're extending appreciation for the experience. I'm so lovely to share. Um, Carmen is asking, I regularly feel a tingling in the upper back, like a light electrical charge when I relax or connect with someone. Could this be the reflex? I felt it during the practice as well. Carmen, you bet. That is it. Again, when you feel relative safety, your body's like, this is a time, let me settle some more. And that's that sensation. So now you have a name for it, therapeutic vibration or tremor, and how wonderful that your body can do this and meet you here. Um, Krista is sharing about having Parkinson and having the DBS surgery, and at times have overwhelming sadness, but I let it flow through you. If we feel overwhelmed, overwhelming is never a good thing, because when it overwhelms, we overwhelming us causes some kind of disconnection because it's too much for our window of capacity. It's too much for us. So we're going to disconnect. And that is the basis of trauma. We're disconnecting because it's too much. So learning to feel a little bit at a time, right? To bring it back into your window of capacity. So using a practice like this to take it from overwhelm, being sadness, to a grief that you can feel instead of disconnect from, right? Um, Cassia is saying, I felt touched watching my legs vibrating, and afterwards my breath was softer and deeper. Beautiful. Um, Linda is asking, what if after years of trauma, I never experienced the vibration or shaking? I've had hospitalizations and trauma due to illness and accidents and have never experienced the shaking. Have I been storing this? I have high anxiety. Linda? Yes. The body remembers. What do we know? The body keeps the score. So all of that charge stays, it has nowhere to go. It stays in the body and can manifest as anxiety. So in my practice over the years, I've worked with many people diagnosed bipolar, diagnosed anxiety, um, diagnosed depression. And a lot of that is either stored fight energy or flight energy or stored shutdown freeze energy that manifests in those ways. And that when they start accessing this therapeutic vibration, um, that they begin to, it's not something that happens immediately, it happens in little bits, right? That you begin to reset, 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 reset. And as you continue to access this vibration over time, your body begins to find greater safety, greater safety, greater safety, greater safety, and complete, right? So you build enough resources. This vibration can also be used to process trauma. But when we process trauma, we do it for longer periods of time. But if we are not stable and we try to use it for long periods of time too quickly, we will become overwhelmed and can re-traumatize ourselves. So that's why in this course, this session, I am saying we're doing little bits for stabilization, little bits for stabilization, so we don't become overwhelmed and re-traumatize. But Linda, your answer is yes, and there's hope. There is, your body knows this, right? And this is not something people talk about enough because nobody makes money off a reflex in your body. Nobody. Right? Um, so we have some more questions here. I'm going to take, whoa, we've got lots of questions. Let me do my best to work my way through here. AR says, you mentioned you have long COVID. Yes, I do. Does this practice help you? Absolutely. Any other suggestions for improvement in fatigue from long COVID? Long COVID, I mean, there's several different subtypes. Rest, you cannot rest enough because if you spend more energy than you have, that's just, that's a law of physics. You've got to rest, 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 rest. But what this practice does is help me not waste energy, which I don't have a lot of, in unnecessary stress responses. So by practicing regularly, I discovered these are stress responses that I have that are not useful. And I'm able to use this vibration to bring myself into coherence or settle for the moment. And I get to reclaim that energy that was being wasted in that unnecessary stress or trauma response. That's actually one of the reasons, like, motivating, because I had an energy limiting disability before getting long COVID. Long COVID made it much worse. That's part of this practice sits within a practice I developed called the Resilience Toolkit. That in its this is this whole idea is how do I regulate my response into what is needed in the moment? What are the tools and tricks and tips? And this is one of the practices that we do as we access the reflex. Um, Melody, I love this. Okay, so I have to read what Melody wrote in the chat. Melody said, thank you. I did some vigorous movement and twisting the towel, and it helped process and settle the emotion. I love that. You were feeling overwhelmed. You did something little, and boom, it's back in your window of capacity to be with. Sometimes we have this idea that if I can just get this, like again, get it out, this big thing. If it's so big, we become overwhelmed. We disconnect from it. We just stay stuck in it. And you wonder why I keep going for these extreme experiences, breath work, intensity, intense trauma sharing, dumping. Why am I not getting better? Because you're looping in overwhelm. We have to learn to recognize overwhelm and come out of it. We've got to stay under our overwhelm threshold. Okay. Sonia did recover very well from the bike accident. I am so glad, and that feedback was helpful. Um, Mira is saying, I have intense shivering when I feel I'm about to throw up. I think I have a phobia, but is this my nervous system trying to regulate? This is, again, a fantastic question. I love y'all. These are great questions. Um, Panic attacks if you look at the diagnostic criteria for panic attacks, it includes trembling. The thing is, the trembling is your body recognizing whatever is happening is not that serious and it's trying to help you regulate. So if you have a phobia about vomiting, I think it's called emetophobia, if you have that phobia, the fear is so high, but there's some part of you that knows you are okay. And that part, right, is your body is activating this trembling to bring you out of that really high activation. So again, genius of the body, genius of your body trying to help you. Rose is asking about the physiological explanation for this vibration. Rose, I can, okay. The only research that happens is when somebody can make a device or a drug and that they can sell you. Otherwise, nobody is funding basic research. So because you can't make a device or a drug on a reflex in a human body, there's very little research. What we do know based on physiology is that it originates in the brain and the spinal cord. We have certain what are called tremorgenic foci in the nervous system that are capable of activating various different kinds of tremors. We actually don't know about, in addition, we know what the outcomes are, how people feel afterwards. The mechanisms we're less sure. Also, most of the ways we study neurology, you have to lay very still and for imaging. How can you lay still when you're moving, right? So there's so we actually don't know. Adrenaline has a very short half-life of 1 to 2 minutes in the body. It's 1 to 2 minutes. Um, Being able to measure what's in the blood is different than what's happening in the brain, right? There's adrenaline and noradrenaline, like epinephrine, norepinephrine, they're in the, so some of our mechanisms for studying this are not up to snuff. But we do know outcome, what happens. So hopefully, Rose, that was helpful. Anna asks if this is similar to the TRE regulation method. TRE also accesses the same vibration, but they do it in a way of get it out. They do long vibration, 10, 15, 20 minutes of vibration. At that point, you are not stabilizing or resetting. At that point, you are doing in the repatterning phase, the second stage of trauma healing. If you are already very stable and already know how to regulate, doing that kind of deep processing, wonderful. But most people are looking to learn how to regulate their nervous system. And when you do, and I am trained in TRE, I was a teacher on their team. When you teach TRE, you are told to tell people, just self-regulate. But most people are there to learn how to regulate. So telling someone to self-regulate is not helpful. We need to learn how to regulate. So this is the same vibration, but it is used differently. There are other modalities that also use this vibration, but again, this is a human reflex that can be used adaptively. Um, yes, and Casey is saying from Lowen psychotherapy, it also exists. So yes, it exists in other old forms of Qigong. There's certain religious practices that use it. It's not unique. Again, this is if I can, again, if you can leave with nothing else than this some inkling of knowing that inside your body, you have what you need. Do you need to learn how to work with it? Yes. It's very powerful, and we've lost a lot of knowledge about how to work with it. And most of us are carrying so much personal trauma and ancestral trauma that there's a lot for us to work through. So we need to go slow. We need to be gentle. If you're interested in more, I offer the resilience. You can look up the resilience toolkit, and we teach how to use this vibration in this way. Um, yeah, and then thank you. There's the website. Our website just got popped in the chat, Lumos Transforms, where you can look up the resilience toolkit. I really appreciate all of your presence and especially making it through the Zoom link fiasco, but you did it and you're here. And this is recorded and you can come back and watch it at any time. Um, Jennifer's saying you've given so much permission in this talk to allow us to listen, to trust. Thank you so, so, so much. There is so much wisdom here. Uh, and Anja is saying, so do I get it right? When this inner freezing, shivering starts in extreme stress or fear or anger, I should not control it, but let it shiver. You got it. That is your body trying to help you. Okay. So we're just at time. I'm going to hand it over to our host to close us out.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you so much to our audience for your participation, for your thoughtful questions. What a gift that Nakem has given us with these exercises, these warm-ups that we can do from the Resilience Toolkit. Please be sure to check out her website that I have put in the chat. Krista, I know you mentioned you had an issue with the audio. Please email me so that I can look into that for you. I've put my email there. Please enjoy the talks that you have available to you today. From 7 a.m. today till 7 a.m. tomorrow, you have talks on creating safety in the nervous system. And I hope that you will take advantage of them. If you buy lifetime access, of course, you have the freedom to listen to these in perpetuity. Tomorrow, we have a live meditation at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, led by Heart Mind team member Jill. And our expert speaker tomorrow at 12 p.m. noon is Jan Winhall. Her title is Revolutionizing Trauma and Addiction Treatment with the Felt Sense Polyvagal Model. So you will not want to miss this. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the live meditation and 12 p.m. Eastern for the next interactive expert-led Q&A. Thank you so, so much again. And Kim, thank you to our Heart Mind audience. Hope you enjoy the talks and have a blessed day.